Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Weekly Revenge Roundup. If you're new here, this is where we dive into the most insane family drama stories from Reddit every single week. And trust me, this week's collection is absolutely wild. Before we jump in, let me ask you something. Have you ever dealt with a toxic mother-in-law? Someone who just pushes every boundary, disrespects you in your own home, and acts like you're the problem? Well, the 5 people in today's stories know exactly what that feels like. But here's the thing, they didn't just take it. They stood up for themselves, they got creative, and in some cases, they got the most satisfying revenge you've ever heard. Now, real quick, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. I love seeing our community grow from all over the world. And if you enjoy these weekly roundups, smash that like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode. All right, let's get into it. Story number 1 comes from a woman we'll call Sarah, and it starts at what should have been one of the happiest days of her life, her son's wedding. But her mother-in-law had other plans. Let's dive in. Story 1. The wedding dress disaster. Sarah had been married to David for 32 years. 32 years of dealing with her mother-in-law, Linda. Now, Linda was one of those women who had money, old money, and she made sure everyone knew it. She lived in a massive estate, drove a Mercedes, wore designer everything, and looked down on anyone she considered beneath her. And from day one, she considered Sarah beneath her. You see, Sarah grew up working class. Her parents were immigrants. She put herself through community college while working 2 jobs. When she married David, Linda made it clear she thought her son was settling. But Sarah and David built a good life together. David became a successful architect. Sarah worked as a school administrator. They raised 2 kids, including their son, Michael, who was now getting married. The wedding was planned for months. Michael's fiancée, Jessica, was a lovely girl. Sarah and Jessica got along beautifully. They planned everything together, the flowers, the venue, the menu. It was going to be perfect. 3 weeks before the wedding, Sarah went dress shopping. She found this beautiful champagne-colored dress. Elegant, age-appropriate, classy. She was so excited. She mentioned it to Linda at a family dinner, just casual conversation. "I found my dress for the wedding. It's this lovely champagne color." Linda cut her off. "How much did you spend?" Sarah hesitated. The dress was $300, not cheap but not designer either, a reasonable price for the mother of the groom. "It was $300, Sarah said. Linda's face, oh, you should have seen it. She looked like Sarah had just admitted to shopping at a thrift store. $300, Linda repeated, loud enough that other people at the restaurant turned to look. "For the mother of the groom, Sarah, that's very cheap." The table went silent. David looked uncomfortable. Michael looked mortified. But Linda just smiled, that tight little smile of hers. "I mean, I suppose if that's your budget," Linda continued. "But darling, this is a society wedding. People will be looking at the mothers. I'd hate for anyone to think we couldn't afford better." Sarah felt her face get hot, but she kept her cool. "The dress is beautiful, Linda. I'm very happy with it." Linda shrugged. "If you say so, I of course had mine custom made. Vera Wang. Cost a bit more than $300, but, well, some things are worth investing in." Sarah said nothing. She just smiled and changed the subject. But inside, she was furious. The weeks passed. The wedding approached. And then, 2 days before the ceremony, Linda called Sarah. "Sarah, dear," Linda said in that syrupy voice of hers, "I wanted to ask you a favor." "What's that, Linda?" "Well, you know I've always loved your lake house. The one you and David inherited from his uncle. It's such a charming little property. And I was thinking, now that you're getting older, you probably don't use it as much. I'd love to buy it from you. Or perhaps you just give it to me. As a gift, I'd take such good care of it." Sarah felt something click in her brain. This woman who had just humiliated her about a dress was now asking for her property. "Let me think about it, Linda," Sarah said sweetly. "Let's talk after the wedding." "Oh, wonderful," Linda gushed. I knew you'd be reasonable." The wedding day arrived. It was beautiful. Michael and Jessica looked so happy. Sarah wore her cheap $300 dress and got compliment after compliment. Even strangers came up to her saying how elegant she looked. Linda, of course, wore her Vera Wang. It was gorgeous, no denying that. But here's the thing about Linda's dress. It was white, not cream, not ivory, white. You know, the color you're not supposed to wear to a wedding because it competes with the bride. Jessica handled it with grace, but Sarah saw the hurt in her new daughter-in-law's eyes. At the reception, Linda was holding court at her table, talking loudly about her dress. "Yes, custom Vera Wang. You can't put a price on quality, you know." That's when Linda saw Sarah and waved her over. "Sarah, come here, dear. I was just telling everyone about our conversation, about the lake house. Have you thought about my offer?" 200 guests, all eyes on them. Linda was putting her on the spot, just like with the dress. Sarah smiled. That calm, serene smile she'd perfected over 32 years of dealing with this woman. "Oh yes, Linda. I've thought about it quite a bit, actually." Linda beamed, and, "Well, the thing is," Sarah said, her voice carrying across the suddenly quiet table, "we sold the lake house 3 months ago." Linda's smile froze. "What?" "David and I sold it to a lovely young couple. They have 2 small children. They're going to make such beautiful memories there. The sale closed 2 weeks ago." Linda's face went from tan to white to red. You sold it, without even asking me." Sarah's smile never wavered. "Linda, it was our property. We didn't need to ask anyone. But if it makes you feel better, we got excellent value for it. Much more than $300. You could hear a pin drop. Then Sarah leaned in just a little, voice still sweet as honey. "And you know what we did with the money, Linda? We're taking Jessica and Michael on their dream honeymoon to Italy. First class. The whole family. Because some things are worth investing in." Linda sat there, speechless, as Sarah walked away. The rest of the wedding was perfect, and Linda, she left early, claimed she had a headache. Sarah later told David she'd never felt better in her life. Okay, let's break this down for a second. What Sarah did here was brilliant for 3 reasons. First, she didn't react in the moment at the restaurant. She stayed calm, stayed classy. Reacting emotionally would have made her look bad. Second, she let Linda dig her own grave. By wearing white to the wedding and publicly asking about the house, Linda showed everyone there exactly who she was. And third, and this is key, Sarah's revenge wasn't cruel. It wasn't about hurting Linda. It was about setting a boundary. That lake house was Sarah's to do with as she pleased, and she chose to invest in her family's happiness instead of caving to pressure. That's not revenge, that's dignity. Now some of you might be thinking, but couldn't Sarah have just told Linda no about the house? Sure, but would Linda have listened? Would she have stopped asking? Women like Linda don't take no for an answer. Sometimes you have to make it impossible for them to get what they want. And the public nature of Sarah's response, that was the cherry on top. Linda tried to humiliate her publicly twice, once with the dress comment, once by putting her on the spot about the house. Sarah simply returned the favor. The lesson here, when someone repeatedly disrespects you, sometimes the kindest thing you can do, for yourself, is remove what they want from the equation entirely. All right, that's story 1. Let's move to story number 2, and this one. This one involves a will, a shocking revelation, and a mother-in-law who seriously underestimated her daughter-in-law. Let's get into it. Story 2, the inheritance surprise. This story comes from a woman we'll call Maria. Maria married into a wealthy family. Her husband, Christopher, came from money, like serious money. His mother, Patricia, was one of those women who ran the whole family like a CEO runs a company. Patricia was calculating, cold, and obsessed with the family name and reputation. When Christopher brought Maria home, a first-generation American whose parents ran a small restaurant, Patricia was unimpressed. She made comments, little digs. "Oh, Maria, you wear such colorful jewelry, very ethnic. Or, I suppose not everyone grows up learning proper table etiquette. Maria took it in stride. She loved Christopher. They built a life together, had 2 kids. Christopher worked in the family business. Maria became a lawyer, corporate law. She did very well for herself. But Patricia never saw it. To her, Maria was always the girl from the wrong side of town. Years passed. Christopher's father passed away, and Patricia became even more controlling. She'd show up at their house unannounced, criticize Maria's parenting, question their financial decisions. One day, Patricia called Maria. "I need to discuss something with you, in person, alone." They met at Patricia's estate. Big, cold, sterile place. Patricia had documents spread on the dining room table. "These are Christopher's inheritance papers," Patricia said without preamble. "When I pass, everything goes to Christopher. The estate, the business shares, the investment portfolio, everything." Maria nodded. "Okay." "But there's a condition," Patricia continued, her eyes sharp. "The inheritance can only go to Christopher if you sign a post-nuptial agreement stating you have no claim to any of it. Not in divorce, not in death, nothing." Maria felt her stomach drop. "You want me to give up any claim to my husband's inheritance?" "It's family money," Patricia said coolly. "It should stay in the family, the real family." There it was, the real family, meaning not Maria. "And if I don't sign?" Maria asked. Patricia smiled. "Then I'll change my will. Everything goes to Christopher's brother, Nathan, and your children get nothing." Maria sat there, processing. This woman was threatening her children's inheritance to force her to sign away her rights. "I need to think about this," Maria said finally. "You have 1 week," Patricia said. "Then I call my lawyers." Maria left that house furious. She went home, told Christopher everything. He was livid, wanted to confront his mother immediately. But Maria stopped him. "Let me handle this," she said. Over the next week, Maria did her research. She pulled records, made calls, used every legal contact she had, and she found something very interesting. Turns out, 20 years earlier, Christopher's father, Patricia's late husband, had set up a separate trust. A trust Patricia didn't control. A trust that actually held more assets than Patricia's estate. And who were the beneficiaries of that trust? Christopher and Nathan split equally. The trust was ironclad. Patricia couldn't touch it, couldn't change it, couldn't control it. But here's the best part. The trust would distribute when the youngest beneficiary, Nathan, turned 50, which was happening in 3 months. Patricia had no idea this trust existed. Her late husband had set it up quietly, probably knowing exactly what kind of person his wife was. Maria also discovered that Patricia's estate, it was mostly the big house and some antique furniture. The real money, the business shares, the investments, those were in the trust Christopher's father had set up. Patricia was essentially holding nothing over their heads. She just didn't know it yet. So Maria did something brilliant. She showed up at Patricia's estate exactly 1 week later. "I've made my decision," Maria said. Patricia looked smug, and Maria placed a folder on the table. "I'm not signing your post-nuptial agreement." Patricia's face hardened. "Then you leave me no choice." "But," Maria continued, "I wanted to bring you these documents. They're from your late husband's trust, the one he set up in 1998. I thought you should know about it before you make any changes to your will." Patricia opened the folder. As she read, her face went from confident to confused to pale. This can't be right," Patricia whispered. "Oh, it's right," Maria said calmly. "Your husband set up a trust 20 years ago. It contains the family business shares, the investment portfolio, the real estate holdings, essentially everything valuable. And it distributes to Christopher and Nathan in 3 months when Nathan turns 50. You have no control over it. You can't change it. You can't stop it." Patricia looked like she might faint. "So you see, Patricia," Maria continued, her voice steady, "you can do whatever you want with your will. Leave Christopher nothing. Leave him everything. It doesn't really matter, does it? The real inheritance is coming regardless, and it's going to Christopher. and me as his wife and our children. Maria stood up, smoothing her dress. One more thing, she added. Christopher's father, he added a clause to the trust. If anyone tries to contest it or manipulate the beneficiaries, and this includes coercing a beneficiary's spouse into signing away their rights, they forfeit their share entirely. So if you'd like to try forcing this postnuptial agreement, go ahead. But Christopher will lose everything if we sign under duress. Maria walked to the door, then turned back. Oh, and Patricia, that jewelry you called ethnic, it was a gift from Christopher's father. He told me once that he appreciated how I brought color into this family. I think about that every time I wear it. And she left. Patricia called Christopher that night, apologizing profusely. Said she'd been confused about the finances, that there was no need for any postnuptial agreement. 3 months later, the trust distributed. Christopher and Nathan each received their inheritances. Maria and Christopher used part of theirs to start a scholarship fund for first-generation college students. Patricia, she stopped making comments about Maria's background. In fact, she barely spoke at family gatherings anymore. And Maria, she wore her colorful jewelry proudly. Now this is what I call strategic revenge. Maria didn't get emotional. She didn't lash out. She didn't even tell Patricia to screw off, though she would have been justified. Instead, she did her homework. She used her skills as a lawyer to uncover the truth, and she used that truth as a shield to protect her family. Here's the lesson. When someone tries to manipulate you with threats, the first thing you should do is verify those threats are real. Patricia was bluffing. She was using fear and intimidation to control Maria, but the moment Maria called that bluff, game over. I also love that Maria didn't humiliate Patricia publicly. This was a private conversation, a private victory, because the goal wasn't revenge, it was protection. Maria protected herself, her husband, and her children from a manipulative woman. And that clause about duress, that was Christopher's father protecting his son from beyond the grave. He knew what kind of person Patricia was, and he made sure she couldn't use money to control the family. Sometimes the best revenge is just living well and being smarter than the person trying to hurt you. All right, story 2 done. Let's move to story 3, and friends, this one is wild. It involves babysitting, boundaries, and a grandmother who learned a very, very hard lesson. Here we go. Story 3, the babysitting trap. This story comes from a mom we'll call Rachel. Rachel had 2 kids, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. Her mother-in-law, Diane, lived about 20 minutes away and was, let's call her involved. Now, involved grandparents can be wonderful. They can help with babysitting, spend quality time with the grandkids, give the parents a break. But Diane wasn't that kind of involved. Diane was the kind of involved where she'd show up unannounced and rearrange Rachel's kitchen cabinets because you're doing it wrong. The kind who'd contradict Rachel's parenting decisions in front of the kids. The kind who'd feed the kids candy before dinner and then leave before bedtime when they were bouncing off the walls. Rachel tried to set boundaries. Diane, please call before you come over. Diane would show up anyway. Diane, please don't give the kids sugar before dinner. Diane would do it anyway and say, oh, I'm grandma, I'm allowed to spoil them. Rachel's husband, Tom, tried talking to his mother. Diane would cry and say she was just trying to help, and that Rachel was keeping her from her grandchildren. It came to a head one day when Rachel had an important job interview. She'd been a stay-at-home mom for 4 years, and she was trying to get back into her career. This interview was huge, a senior position at a marketing firm, good salary, flexible hours. Rachel arranged for her sister to watch the kids. Everything was set. The morning of the interview, Rachel was getting ready when Diane called. Rachel, emergency, I need you to watch your nephew, my other son's kid, today, just for a few hours. His daycare called in sick and I have my book club and... Diane, I can't, Rachel said. I have a job interview in 2 hours. Oh, just reschedule it, Diane said breezily. Jobs come and go, family is forever. I'm not rescheduling, Rachel said firmly. My sister is watching my kids. Call your other son and tell him to figure it out." Diane's voice turned cold. "I see. Your career is more important than family. Good to know where your priorities are." And she hung up. Rachel was furious, but didn't have time to deal with it. She left for her interview. The interview went great. They offered her the job on the spot. Rachel was thrilled. She rushed home to tell Tom and the kids. When she walked in the house, she froze. Diane was there, with Rachel's kids, and her nephew, no sign of Rachel's sister. What are you doing here?" Rachel asked. "Oh, I called your sister and told her I'd take over," Diane said sweetly. "I know how busy you are with your little interview. Figured I'd help out." Rachel's blood pressure shot up. "I specifically told you I arranged for my sister to watch them." "Well, I'm grandma," Diane said. "Surely I'm more qualified than your sister." That's when Rachel noticed something. The kids were watching a movie. A movie Rachel had specifically said they weren't allowed to watch, too violent for their age. "Diane, why are they watching that?" "Oh, they wanted to. I said yes. You're too strict with them anyway." Rachel turned off the TV. The kids started crying. Diane immediately comforted them, saying, "Mommy's being mean, isn't she?" That was it. That was the moment Rachel decided enough was enough. She smiled at Diane. "Thank you so much for watching them today. I really appreciate it." Diane looked suspicious but pleased. "In fact," Rachel continued, "since you're so good with them, I'm going to need you to babysit every Tuesday and Thursday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. I start my new job next week." Diane's smile faltered. "Every Tuesday and Thursday?" "Yes," Rachel said brightly. "You said family is more important than anything, and I need reliable childcare. This is perfect." "Well, I have book club on Thursdays and my yoga class on Tuesdays and—" "Oh, you can reschedule those," Rachel said, echoing Diane's exact words from earlier. "Family is forever, right?" Diane stammered. "I don't think I can commit to." "But you just said you're more qualified than my sister, and you undermined the childcare I arranged because you wanted to be involved. So, be involved. I'll drop them off at your house Tuesday at 8:45 a.m. Diane looked panicked. "Rachel, I don't think you understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly," Rachel said, her voice steel under the sweetness. "You want to be involved when it's fun, when it's an hour of spoiling them and then leaving. But actual childcare, actual responsibility, that's different, isn't it?" Diane tried to argue, but Rachel just kept smiling. "So, should I plan on you for Tuesdays and Thursdays, or should I tell you right now that you are not to show up at my house unannounced, not to contradict my parenting, and not to undermine the arrangements I make for my children?" Diane's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "I'll need an answer now, Diane. Either you're my reliable, consistent childcare who follows MY rules in MY house and with MY kids, or you're a grandmother who visits when invited and respects boundaries. Choose." Diane chose. She muttered something about not being able to commit to regular babysitting and left in a huff. From that day forward, Diane called before visiting. She stopped undermining Rachel, and when Rachel occasionally asked her to babysit with proper notice and clear rules, Diane followed them to the letter. Because she knew if she didn't, Rachel would call her bluff again. You know what I love about this story? Rachel used Diane's own logic against her. Diane wanted to be the involved grandmother when it was convenient. She wanted the fun parts of parenting, spoiling the kids, being the hero, without any of the actual work or responsibility. So Rachel said, "Okay, be involved, be fully involved, every week with my rules." And suddenly, Diane realized she didn't want to be that involved. This is a classic boundary-setting tactic. When someone volunteers for something, take them up on it completely. Watch how fast they backpedal. The other brilliant thing Rachel did was give Diane a clear choice. Not an ultimatum, not a threat. A choice. Either be reliable help on Rachel's terms, or be a respectful grandmother with limited involvement. Diane chose respect, because the alternative was actual work. Here's the lesson for anyone dealing with boundary-stomping in-laws. Consistency is key. You cannot allow someone to override your decisions sometimes and then expect them to respect you other times. Rachel tried soft boundaries. They didn't work. So she made the boundary hard. My house, my kids, my rules. Period. And when Diane tested it, Rachel didn't back down. That's how you train people to respect you. All right, 3 down, 2 to go. Story 4 is about property, keys, and a mother-in-law who thought she had the upper hand. Spoiler alert, she very much did not. Let's get into it. Story 4, The House Keys Mystery. This story comes from a woman we'll call Jennifer. Jennifer and her husband, Mark, bought their first house 3 years into their marriage. It was a starter home, nothing fancy. 3 bedrooms, small yard, but it was theirs. Mark's mother, Carol, had opinions about the house from day one. Too small, wrong neighborhood, not enough storage. Why didn't they buy in the subdivision where she lived? Jennifer and Mark ignored her. They loved their little house. Then Carol started doing something weird. She'd ask for their spare key. Just in case of emergency, Carol said. What if there's a fire? What if you lock yourselves out? What if I need to check on the house while you're on vacation? Mark, wanting to keep the peace, gave her a key. Big mistake. Carol started showing up unannounced. Jennifer would come home from work to find Carol in her living room, rearranging furniture. Or in the kitchen, cleaning out the fridge and throwing away food she deemed unhealthy. Mom, you can't just come into our house when we're not home, Mark would say. I'm helping, Carol would reply. You two are so busy, I'm just lending a hand. Jennifer asked for the key back. Carol lost it. Mark asked for it back. Carol said she'd drop it off and never did. Finally, Jennifer had enough. She called a locksmith and changed all the locks. Didn't tell Carol. Didn't tell Mark ahead of time, she just did it. Carol found out when she tried to let herself in, and the key didn't work. She called Mark, furious. Your wife changed the locks. She locked me out of your house, and my key doesn't work. Mark, to his credit, backed Jennifer up. Mom, we asked for the key back multiple times. You didn't return it. We had to change the locks. Carol played the victim, cried, said they didn't trust her, said Jennifer was turning Mark against her. They held firm, no spare key for Carol. A few months passed. Things were tense but manageable. Carol stopped showing up unannounced because, well, she couldn't get in. Then Jennifer and Mark decided to go on vacation. A week in Mexico. They arranged for a neighbor to water the plants and bring in the mail. The day before they left, Carol called Mark. I heard you're going on vacation, she said. Yeah, we leave tomorrow. Who's watching the house? Our neighbor, Steve. Why? Steve, Carol's voice dripped with disdain. You're trusting a neighbor over your own mother. Mark, that's absurd. Give me a key. I'll check on the house every day, make sure everything is fine. Mom, we're all set with Steve. Mark, I insist. What if something happens? What if there's a leak? What if someone tries to break in? Steve won't know what to do. I'm family. I should be the one taking care of your home. Mark hesitated. Jennifer, listening on speaker, frantically shook her head no. Mom, we already made arrangements. Mark started. Fine, Carol said coldly. Don't trust me. When you come home to a flooded house or a burglary, don't say I didn't offer to help. And she hung up. Jennifer and Mark went on their vacation. They had a great time. No contact with Carol, no drama. When they got home, everything was fine. Steve had taken perfect care of the place. But the next day, Mark got a call from his dad, Carol's husband. Mark, your mother is upset. She went by your house every day while you were gone, trying to check on it, and she couldn't get in. She says you don't trust her. Mark was confused. Dad, we didn't ask her to check on the house. We asked Steve. Well, she wanted to help, but she didn't have a key, so she couldn't. She's very hurt. Mark sighed. Dad, we specifically told her we had it handled. That's when it clicked. Jennifer grabbed Mark's arm. Wait, she said. Your mom went by our house every day. How do you know? Mark's dad hesitated. Well, she told me. She said she drove by every morning to make sure everything looked okay. Jennifer's eyes narrowed. Did she mention trying to get in? Another hesitation. She may have mentioned trying the doors just to be safe. Jennifer and Mark exchanged a look. Carol had been trying to get into their house every single day, even though they'd explicitly said they had it covered. Jennifer went outside and checked the locks. Sure enough, there were scratches around the deadbolt, fresh scratches, like someone had been trying to force a key that didn't fit. Carol had been trying to break in. Jennifer took photos of the scratches. Then she and Mark drove to Carol's house. Carol opened the door, already playing victim. "Oh, Mark, I'm so glad you're here. I was so worried about your house while you were gone." "Mom," Mark said firmly, "did you try to get into our house while we were on vacation?" Carol's face flickered. "I just wanted to check." "Did you try to force a lock?" Carol's eyes widened. I may have tried my old key just to see if it still worked." "Your old key doesn't work," Jennifer said coldly. "We changed the locks months ago, you know this, so why were you trying to get in?" Carol stammered. "I just thought, maybe you'd given me a new key and I forgot." "We didn't," Mark said. "And you left scratches on our deadbolt trying to force your way in. Mom, that's attempted breaking and entering." Carol went pale. You wouldn't call the police on your own mother." Jennifer pulled out her phone, showing the photos of the scratches. "No, we won't call the police. But let me be very clear. If you ever try to enter our home without permission again, if you ever show up uninvited, if you ever test our locks, if you ever even walk up to our door without calling first, I will file a police report. I will get a restraining order, and you will not see your future grandchildren." Carol looked shocked. "Future grandchildren?" "I'm pregnant," Jennifer said flatly. 10 weeks. We were going to tell you next month, but now I'm telling you so you understand what's at stake. You will respect our boundaries or you will have no relationship with this child. Your choice." Mark stood next to Jennifer, silent but supportive. Carol tried to argue, tried to guilt trip, tried to play victim. But Mark finally said, "Mom, enough. Jennifer is right. You crossed a line. A big line. You either respect our home and our privacy or you don't get to be in our lives. Decide now." Carol chose to respect the boundaries. From that day on, she called before visiting. She never asked for a key again. And when Jennifer and Mark's baby was born, Carol was invited to meet her grandson after calling ahead and waiting to be let in. Okay, this story shows how important it is to document boundary violations. Jennifer took photos of those scratches. That wasn't petty, that was smart. Because when Carol tried to deny what she did, Jennifer had proof. Here's the thing about people like Carol. They rely on you being too polite to call them out. They rely on family loyalty, on guilt, on social pressure to keep you from holding them accountable. But Jennifer didn't play that game. She laid out consequences clearly. Respect our boundaries or lose access to your grandchild. That's not cruel. That's not manipulative. That's called protecting your family. And Mark backed his wife. That's huge. So many of these stories involve the husband staying neutral or siding with mom. But Mark saw what his mother was doing and chose his marriage. The lesson here, when someone violates your boundaries, document it. And when you set consequences, follow through. Empty threats just teach people they can keep pushing. Carol learned the hard way. She gambled and lost. All right, friends, we've got one more story. Story 5. And I saved this one for last because it's about family gatherings, holiday drama, and a mother-in-law who got served the coldest dish of all, poetic justice. Let's finish strong. Story 5. The Christmas Dinner Twist. Our final story comes from a woman we'll call Amanda. Amanda had been married to her husband, Eric, for 8 years. Every year, without fail, they spent Christmas at Eric's mother's house. We'll call her Barbara. Barbara was one of those women who treated Christmas like a performance. Everything had to be perfect. The decorations, the food, the gifts, the family photos. It was less about celebrating and more about showing off. And every year, Barbara made sure to remind Amanda that she didn't quite measure up. "Oh, Amanda, you brought store-bought rolls. How? Practical. I suppose not everyone has time to bake from scratch like I do." Or, "Amanda, darling, you wore that to Christmas dinner. It's very Casual. We usually dress up a bit more, but I suppose that's what you're comfortable in. Year after year, little digs, always with a smile, always with plausible deniability. Oh, I didn't mean it that way. You're so sensitive, Amanda. Eric would tell his mom to be nice. Barbara would cry and say she was just trying to help Amanda fit in. This past year, though, something changed. Amanda had had enough. In November, Barbara called to discuss Christmas plans. Amanda, Eric mentioned you wanted to host Christmas this year, at your house. Amanda had mentioned it to Eric. They had a new house, plenty of space. She thought it would be nice to start their own traditions. Yes, Amanda said. We'd love to have everyone at our place. Barbara's voice got icy. Amanda, Christmas has been at MY House for 35 years. It's tradition. The family expects it. I really think we should keep things the way they've always been. Well, we'd like to start our own traditions. Oh, Amanda, Barbara sighed. I understand you want to feel important, but hosting Christmas is a lot of work. The cooking, the decorating, making sure everything is perfect. I'm not sure you're ready for that responsibility. Let's stick with what works, shall we? Amanda felt her jaw clench. Barbara, we're hosting Christmas this year. You're welcome to come, but it's at our house. Then I won't be coming, Barbara said flatly. And I'll tell the rest of the family that you're the reason we can't have our traditional Christmas. Amanda took a deep breath. That's your choice, Barbara. And she hung up. Eric was horrified when he heard. She's going to turn the whole family against you. Let her try, Amanda said. Amanda sent out invitations to the entire family. A beautiful, formal invitation to Christmas dinner at her and Eric's home. RSVP requested. Within a day, Eric's siblings started calling. Are you really hosting? Mom is furious. Yes, we're hosting, Amanda said calmly. You're all invited. We'd love to have you. One by one, the family members RSVP'd yes. Eric's brother and sister-in-law, his sister and her kids, his cousins. Even Eric's dad RSVP'd yes separately from Barbara. Barbara, of course, did not RSVP. 2 weeks before Christmas, Barbara called Eric directly. I assume you've come to your senses, and we're doing Christmas at my house like normal. No, Mom, it's at our house. Everyone's already confirmed. There was a long silence. Everyone. Yes, even Dad. Barbara's voice turned shrill. Your father is going without me. He RSVP'd yes. You're still invited, Mom. You just have to let go of control for one day. Barbara hung up. Christmas Eve arrived. Amanda had been cooking and decorating for days. The house looked beautiful, warm, inviting. Not like Barbara's sterile, perfectionist showroom. This felt like home. The family started arriving. Eric's siblings brought wine and desserts. The kids ran around playing. It was chaotic and loud and wonderful. At 5 p.m., right as dinner was being served, the doorbell rang. Eric opened it. There stood Barbara, dressed to the nines, holding a massive, extravagant centerpiece. I decided to come, she announced. Someone has to make sure this goes properly. She walked in, without waiting for an invitation. Amanda, standing in the kitchen, saw her and took a deep breath. Be the bigger person, she told herself. Barbara immediately started criticizing. Oh, Amanda, you seated people wrong. The eldest should sit at the head of the table, not you. And these napkins, paper, really. Amanda smiled sweetly. We're keeping things casual this year, Barbara. Would you like to sit down? Barbara placed her giant centerpiece in the middle of Amanda's carefully set table, knocking over a candle arrangement. There, now it looks proper. The family watched nervously. Eric looked ready to intervene, but Amanda just kept smiling. Dinner was served. Amanda had made prime rib, roasted vegetables, homemade rolls, all of Eric's favorite dishes from his childhood. Barbara picked at her food. It's good, Amanda, almost as good as mine. The meat is a touch overcooked, but I'm sure you did your best. Amanda nodded graciously. Thank you, Barbara. Then came time for dessert. Amanda brought out a beautiful homemade chocolate cake with peppermint frosting. Everyone oohed and awed. Barbara sniffed. Store-bought frosting. Homemade, Amanda said. Barbara looked skeptical but said nothing. After dessert, it was time for gifts. The family exchanged presents. Laughter, joy, the kids tore through wrapping paper. Then Barbara stood up. I have an announcement. The room went quiet. I just want to say, Barbara began, her voice dripping with false sweetness, that while I appreciate Amanda's effort this year, I think we can all agree that Christmas just isn't the same without being at the family home. So next year we'll be back to normal, at my house, where it belongs. The room stayed silent. Then Eric's sister spoke up. Actually, Mom, I really loved being here. It felt more relaxed, more like a family gathering and less like performance. Eric's brother nodded. Yeah, this was really nice, Amanda. Thank you for hosting. Even Eric's dad chimed in. I haven't felt this relaxed at Christmas in years, Barb. Barbara's face went red. You can't be serious. Amanda stood up, still smiling. Barbara, you're welcome to come next year, too. Or, if you'd like to host, we can rotate. Holidays should be about family, not control. Barbara sputtered. I am not being controlling. I've been hosting for 35 years because I'm the only one who can do it right. And we appreciate all those years, Amanda said calmly. But it's time for the next generation to create our own traditions. You can be part of them or not. Your choice. Barbara looked around the room. Everyone was nodding, agreeing with Amanda. She grabbed her coat. Fine, if this is how you all feel, I'll spend next Christmas alone. Eric's dad sighed. Barbara, don't be dramatic. No one's saying you can't come. But Barbara was already out the door, slamming it behind her. The room was silent for a moment. Then Eric's niece, about 6 years old, said, Does this mean Grandma isn't going to yell about the napkins next year? Everyone burst out laughing. The rest of the evening was perfect. The family stayed late, playing games, sharing stories. Eric's dad told Amanda it was the best Christmas he'd had in decades. And Barbara, she called Eric on Boxing Day, acting like nothing had happened. So, I was thinking for next Christmas, we could do it at my house again. Eric cut her off. Mom, we're hosting again, you're invited, but the drama stops or you're not welcome. Barbara tried to argue. Eric hung up. She showed up next Christmas, on time, with a simple hostess gift. No centerpiece, no criticisms. She'd learned her lesson. Because the family had chosen joy over perfection, and Amanda over control. This story is the perfect example of how to handle controlling family members. Amanda didn't fight. She didn't argue. She didn't sink to Barbara's level. She just took control quietly, sent the invitations, made the plans, and when Barbara tried to sabotage, Amanda stayed calm and gracious. The brilliance here was letting Barbara expose herself. Amanda didn't have to tell the family Barbara was controlling. They saw it. They experienced the difference between Barbara's performative, stressful Christmas and Amanda's warm, genuine one. And when given the choice, they chose Amanda. That's the ultimate revenge against a controlling person, taking away their control, not through force, but through offering something better. Barbara lost because she couldn't compete with authenticity. She'd spent decades making Christmas about her. Amanda made it about the family. Here's the lesson. You can't reason with controlling people. You can't convince them to change. You can only create an alternative and let people choose. And if what you're offering is better, they'll choose you. Amanda won without ever raising her voice. That's power. And there you have it, friends. 5 mother-in-law revenge stories that prove boundaries matter, documentation matters, and sometimes the best revenge is just living well and refusing to be controlled. So let's recap the lessons. From Sarah's story, stay calm in the moment. Let your actions speak louder than your anger. From Maria's story, do your homework. Verify threats before you react to them. From Rachel's story, call people's bluffs. If they want to be involved, let them be fully involved on your terms. From Jennifer's story, document violations and follow through on consequences. And from Amanda's story, Offer people something better than control. Let them choose joy over drama. Now I want to hear from you. Which story resonated most? Have you dealt with a toxic mother-in-law? What did you do? Drop your stories in the comments. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And if you're new here, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss next week's episode. We're doing these weekly revenge roundups every Monday, so you've got a lot more drama coming your way. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, boundaries aren't mean. They're necessary. You deserve respect, even from family. I'll see you next Monday. Until then, stay strong, stay smart, and don't let anyone make you feel small. Take care, everyone.